Perceptions. A major aspect of the Cold War was perception, each superpower's perception of the other, as well as how each was perceived in the eyes of other countries around the world. In October 1957, the Soviet Union launched Putney, the first artificial Earth satellite. To do this, they used a rocket with a range of 5,000 miles. This meant the Soviet Union had rockets capable of reaching the US, and were far more technologically advanced than the United States had realized. There was a subsequent shift in perception about the balance of power between the two nations. The US had believed itself technologically superior, or at least equal, to the USSR, and the launch of Sputnik came as an unpleasant surprise. The arms race accelerated as a result. The U-2 incident. A US U-2 spy plane was shot down over the USSR in 1960, just before President Eisenhower was to meet with Soviet Premier Khrushchev. At first, Eisenhower tried to claim that it was just a weather plane that had been shot down. But when it became apparent that that was not the case, Eisenhower's Paris summit with Khrushchev was doomed to failure. Perceptions of the US became less favorable as a result, especially because Eisenhower had lied. The fact that the plane had been shot down and the failure of the Paris summit contributed to the sense that the USSR had pulled ahead of the US not only in the arms race of the Cold War, but also in the war of perceptions. Kennedy and Cuba. When Kennedy was elected in 1960, he was just 43. The USSR perceived him as inexperienced and naive, a perception that was reinforced by the disastrous Bay of Pigs invasion, a failed attempt to overthrow Castro's government in Cuba. This led to Khrushchev's decision to station missiles on Cuba in 1962, as he believed Kennedy was too ineffectual to stop him. But when Kennedy did react with force by enacting a naval blockade of Cuba, the two superpowers found themselves in a standoff. It was the highest point of tension during the entire Cold War, and the closest the two powers and the world came to nuclear war. It was resolved through back-channel diplomacy, and its peaceful resolution resulted in a shift in how the superpowers were perceived worldwide. Kennedy and the US became more respected, while the USSR and Khrushchev lost stature. Khrushchev was removed from power soon after.